All right, welcome back to the deep dive. You sent over a really interesting collection of notes and articles about, well, something pretty major happening in the Chinese game world. Looks like a potential shakeup of Tencent's long-held dominance.
That's right. Yeah, it seems like a really pivotal moment.
So our mission here, using only this material you've pulled together, is to, figure out what's driving these changes, why now, and what it could mean for games maybe everywhere.
Exactly. And when you look at these sources together, they really do paint a picture. I mean, Tencent has been the titan, right? The
Sure.
global leader by revenue for years now.
Yeah, absolutely huge.
But this material, it suggests they're facing challenges on like multiple fronts all at once. It's not just one thing. It's a confluence of forces creating what one article here calls a warring states period.
Okay, warring states. Interesting. So where did this sudden sense of upheaval really kick off, according to the notes? It seems to point to a specific kind of dramatic moment.
Absolutely. Yeah, the material really highlights this one article. It was published by a Jinhua-affiliated media outlet. So,
Yeah.
Not just some random blog post.
Right, state affiliated. That carries weight.
Definitely. And what it said was pretty inflammatory. It referred to games as spiritual opium and electronic drugs.
Wow, spiritual opium. That's
Yeah.
an intense language. And it named names, didn't it?
It did. Yeah, it specifically called out Tencent's massive hit, Honor of Kings.
Okay.
And that's key, because this wasn't just like general criticism. It was widely read in China as a signal, you know, maybe from the government itself.
And the market reacted how?
Oh, immediately and brutally. Tencent stock dropped.
Yeah.
What was it? A staggering 20% that day.
20%, just like that.
Just like that. And other big game companies like NetEase, they saw big drops too.
So clearly companies got the message, whatever it was Tencent's rapid response. The material mentioned something.
Yeah, the notes describe Tencent moving really fast. They announced stricter policies for minors playing their games, basically reinforcing and even strengthening existing limits on playtime.
Okay.
And crucially, they explicitly banned in-game purchases for players under 12. This was all part of their the double attack initiative, they called it.
Right, right. And then came a weird twist, according to the sources, after Tencent made that announcement.
Yeah, that original really harsh article, it was abruptly deleted, just gone.
Huh.
And then later, it reappeared, but the title was much softer. Something like, online games have grown into a market worth hundreds of billions of yuan. And those terms, spiritual opium, electronic drugs, they were removed.
So why the change? Do the sources say?
Well, that's the thing. The material points out it's actually ambiguous why it changed. Was it, the government saying, okay, Tencent, you responded? Or maybe it was just a reporter seeing the huge market reaction and backtracking. The notes don't give a definitive answer, but regardless of the reason for the edit, that initial shockwave and Tencent's quick reaction, it certainly seemed to confirm for a lot of people that, yeah, the Chinese game industry is really at a major turning point.
Okay, so to really get the scale of what's being challenged here, we probably need to rewind a bit. How did Tencent build this empire in the first place? The sources seem to describe a core strategy.
They do.
Mm.
And the strategy was basically consolidation. They became the world's biggest game company by revenue, largely by acquiring or investing in promising game studios,
Yeah.
Both Chinese ones and international ones,
Mm-hmm.
bringing them under the Tencent umbrella and then distributing their games mainly through their own platform, Tencent Games.
Mm-hmm.
It was a really powerful model built on, capital and platform control.
And the material even takes us back further, doesn't it, to almost an origin story for the modern Chinese game market. It talks about QQ Farm, QQ Nongchang on their old PC social platform, QQ.
Yeah, QQ Farm.
It presents it as this pivotal moment, like the Famicom in Japan or Atari here.
Yeah, it sounds almost like laughably simple now, doesn't it? Planting stuff, watering, waiting. Sometimes like 70 hours for harvest.
70 hours, wow.
I know. But the notes call it revolutionary because of that simplicity in its context. Remember, QQ was mainly a chat tool, an SNS. People used it all day for messaging.
Right.
QQ Farm had these idle mechanics. You could just pop in for a minute between chats, manage your crops, and pop out. It wasn't like you had to dedicate a whole gaming session. It fit right into how people were already using QQ.
And it wasn't just passive waiting. Right. The social side was key.
Oh, absolutely critical. The sources really emphasize this. You could visit your friends' farms, you could help them out, or, hilariously, you could steal their crops.
Ah,
So it wasn't about, high scores or intense competition. It was more playful interaction. It actually fostered communication, gave people a fun reason to connect on QQ beyond just typing messages.
And how did they make money from this simple farm game? The sources mentioned that too.
Yeah, pretty smart for the time. They sold optional stuff like faster growing seeds, better fertilizer, that kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
But the really clever bit, the material highlights. Sometimes players could actually dig up these paid items randomly in the game itself.
Oh, interesting, like a free sample.
Exactly. It gave players a taste of the benefits of the premium stuff before they actually bought it.
Yeah.
A really powerful way to boost conversion rates, apparently.
So this simple farm game on a chat platform, it ended up being foundational for Tencent's entire business model. Seems like a stretch, but
The sources draw a pretty direct line, actually. Think about it. QQ was already being used by retailers for customer interaction that laid groundwork for their later enterprise services.
okay.
The Q coins, QQ is a virtual currency using QQ Farm, that was a clear precursor to their massive mobile payment systems like WeChat Pay.
Right, I can see that connection.
And of course, the success of the game itself was the genesis of their huge gaming revenue stream. The notes basically argue that 3 of Tencent's 4 main business pillars today, gaming and value-added services, financial tech and enterprise services, and even net advertising, driven by that huge user base, can trace their origins back to this early success with QQ Farm and the QQ platform.
That's actually an incredibly strong foundation, built on social interaction and early web and mobile gaming. But now, the sources detail some pretty significant challenges emerging. What are the main reasons this dominance is being challenged today?
Okay, so the material points to basically 3 key forces that are sort of chipping away at that foundation. The first one is this new wave of game studios, younger studios often that are prioritizing independence and creative vision.
And the feeling from some of these newer studios, especially the ones focused on younger players, Gen Z, the ACG fans.
Right. ACG animation, comics, and games. It's a distinct cultural scene in China. The perception that's highlighted in the sources is that Tencent's games, or maybe their approach, can sometimes feel a bit creatively constrained, maybe even outdated to these audiences.
And censorship plays a role.
Yeah, that's a significant factor the sources discuss. Content censorship, especially around things like violence. Navigating those rules often makes relying on, safe, classical Chinese stories, Three Kingdoms, Journey to the West, that sort of thing, a low-risk business strategy.
Makes sense.
But for studios that want to build entirely new worlds or explore different themes, maybe more modern or blended themes, this can really stifle creativity.
And miHoYo with Genshin Impact is like the poster child for taking a different path here.
Exactly. The material notes they reportedly turned down Tencent investment,
Yeah.
even on good terms. And their success with Genshin Impact, which built this really unique world, blending different styles, and found massive global appeal, is presented as kind of proof that studios can succeed without needing Tencent's money or distribution muscle.
Yep.
The notes argue that studios like miHoYo, and another one mentioned, the one behind Yan Yan 100 Sceneries, they aren't just rehashing the classics. They're sort of recomposing tradition with modern sensibilities. And rejecting Tencent gives them the freedom to chase that creative vision without pressure to stick to safer, maybe less innovative themes.
Okay, so creative freedom, desire for independence, that's one factor. What's the second challenge Tencent is facing, according to the sources?
That would be the rise of alternative distribution platforms. You see, the traditional mobile app stores in China, often run by the phone makers themselves like Huawei, Xiaomi, they have notoriously high commission fees.
How high are we talking?
The sources mentioned 30%, even up to 50%. Plus, developers need huge advertising budgets just to get noticed on those stores.
Wow, that model really benefits the platform holders then. Must be tough for developers.
Especially smaller or newer ones. Precisely. So the sources introduced TapTap as a major alternative. It's described as a vertical game store focused just on games. And it apparently prioritizes game quality and community reviews over just pure advertising spend.
So more merit-based.
Seems like it. And also functions as a social space for gamers, a community. Plus, Billably, the video sharing site that's huge with the ACG crowd, that's another important distribution channel these newer studios are using.
Okay.
So these platforms, combined with the ability to distribute globally through, like, Apple's App Store outside mainland China, they give studios other viable ways to reach players and make money without being tied to those traditional expensive channels that Tencent heavily relies on or controls. Genshin's success overseas is again, a case in point here.
Okay, so we have creative independence pushing studios away and alternative distribution pulling them towards other platforms. What's the third major challenge?
This one brings in the heavyweights, ByteDance and Alibaba.
Ah, okay. Not startups.
Definitely not. These are massive tech giants, deep pockets, enormous existing user bases from their other services, like TikTok Douyin for ByteDance. And they've decided to get serious about gaming.
So ByteDance is a major competitor now in games.
According to these sources, absolutely. They've acquired studios, Nuverse as mentioned, and they've had hits like One Piece, Bloodroots, and they can leverage their own platforms like Douyin for really powerful promotion.
Makes sense. And Alibaba?
Alibaba's made moves too. Acquired a studio called Jianyuju, found success with a game called Three Kingdoms Tactics.
And the notes specifically highlight something interesting here, that both miHoYo and this John Yuju reportedly got buyout offers from Tencent, but turned them down.
Yeah, that detail feels crucial. miHoYo, as we said, chose independence, and Jianyuju went with Alibaba instead of Tencent. So this isn't just about new players entering the market. It shows that Tencent's historical strategy, just buying out potential competitors, it's now being actively resisted. Studios and other tech giants are offering alternative paths. It really illustrates the direct competition happening now for talent and IP at the highest level.
Okay, so putting it all together, the sources are describing a really different landscape from the one Tencent used to dominate so completely.
Yeah, it's certainly not a unipolar world anymore, if it ever truly was. The material explicitly describes it as this period of warring states. Tencent is still incredibly powerful, make no mistake.
Right, they're not going anywhere.
No, and the sources note they're actively adapting. They're still a formidable force. But their position, it's undeniably being challenged and from multiple sides at the same time.
And the sources also give some market context, right? Just how big this battleground is.
Yeah, it's useful context. It's a colossal market, 4.7 trillion yen back in 2020, roughly. Overwhelmingly mobile dominated, like 75% mobile.
Wow, still that high.
Yeah, and interestingly, a really broad demographic of players and payers, that's not just kids, includes middle-aged and even older users.
Yeah.
And a significant player base is actually in smaller cities, not just the huge metropolises.
Which kind of speaks to that deep penetration of mobile gaming, maybe going all the way back to QQ Farm's legacy.
Could be, yeah, that deep integration into daily life. And one more relevant trend the notes mention, post-COVID, time spent on digital content just surged, and the main beneficiaries, short videos and games.
Making the gaming space even more valuable and presumably more fiercely contested.
Exactly, raises the stakes even higher.
So for you listening, what are the sort of key takeaways from this deep dive into your sources? What's the cool insight here?
I think the main thing is that Tencent's long dominance wasn't just about having a big platform like WeChat or QQ. It was really about controlling distribution channels and having the sheer capital to consolidate talent by buying studios. But now you have this combination of factors hitting at once. A new generation of studios wanting creative freedom, alternative platforms breaking that distribution bottleneck, and deep-pocketed tech rivals jumping in. Those historical levers of power, they seem to be weakening simultaneously. It feels like more than just a minor disruption. It looked like a fundamental shift in the market dynamics.
And the potential upside of this warring states era, for players at least.
Well, yeah, the competitive pressure could force more innovation. Studios that are maybe freed from some of those older constraints, using platforms that reward quality, facing competition from different kinds of players. It might lead to a wider variety of games, potentially more creative, maybe more niche titles, that could benefit players both in China and potentially globally. It might shift the focus a bit, away from just safe, established IP towards newer ideas, different worldviews, like the stuff popular in the ACG community.
Okay, so we've looked at that initial shockwave from the Spiritual Opium article, how Tencent built its empire way back, starting with QQ Farm, the three main forces challenging that dominance today: independent studios, new platforms, rival tech giants, and what this whole changing landscape might mean for the future of games coming out of China.
It's definitely a fascinating moment. Lots of moving parts.
Indeed. And as this warring states era in Chinese gaming continues to unfold, maybe here's a question to leave you with. Considering this push and pull we've talked about between, creative ambition on one side, the intense business competition, and the sort of ever-present reality of content regulation on the other, how will all these tensions ultimately shape the next wave of globally impactful games that could potentially emerge from China?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? A complex picture for sure.
Something to think about until our next deep dive.